An American serviceman, a Navy SEAL, was killed in fighting with ISIS in Iraq. We'll talk more about that and the political landscape here in America. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
It is with sadness that all of us have learned that an American soldier, a Navy SEAL, has been killed. The details are almost non-existent. We don't know the gentleman's name. We don't know the exact circumstances under which he died. It was in Iraq. American advisors were with Kurdish fighters who are fighting ISIS. And the news reports, and this is where it gets a little confusing, the news reports said that the Americans were 2 miles behind the line. So they should have been far away from the fighting. But then they said that there was an intense firefight with ISIS, who kept on sending in suicide bombers. There was heavy machine gun fire, and the American was killed by light machine gun fire, probably an AK-47. Light machine gun fire means that they were at close range. So again, just trying to piece together what they're saying, it appears possible that Kurdish forces were overrun by ISIS forces. About 20 Navy SEALs then engaged. About an hour after the fight began, 20 Navy SEALs began to engage ISIS, and I won't quote the exact quote, pounding the expletive out of ISIS, and dozens of ISIS terrorists were killed. Tragically, one American Navy SEAL was killed. This is all we know. I want to talk about what we're facing here for just a moment. In Islamic ideology, Islamic theology, which ISIS holds to, there is a benefit to them dying. Now, it's important to us when we fight an enemy that we know our enemy. If you want to understand what you're fighting in communism, it would do little good to have no idea what communist ideology was all about. And after the US and the Allies defeated Germany, they went on a they called it the denazification of Germany, where they actually did psychological brainwashing, or brain cleansing would be a better way to put it, to denazify. Part of what they did was they took the surviving civilians of Germany and marched them through concentration camps. You can see video footage of German citizens walking in, smiling and laughing, and then walking out crying and sick to their stomach. They were bringing the Germans face to face with the fruit of the ideology of Nazism, to purge it from Germany. Because the Americans knew that this was an ideology. They weren't just fighting Hitler and the Third Reich. It was an ideology about German supremacy, the master race. There were elements of thought that had to be combated. It became a crime to show the swastika. I don't know if it was a crime or not, but people stopped naming their children Adolf. It was a crime to deny that the Holocaust happened. Okay? Because the Allies knew that they were dealing with an ideology that infected the soul so deeply that people were willing to kill and commit horrible acts of butchery against innocent people like the Jews, Gypsies, Christians, especially the Jews. So we have to learn from history, and we have to learn the fundamental principle to know your enemy. Muslims who die fighting the enemy, according to Islamic theology, that when the first drop of their blood is shed, their sins are forgiven. If they die when they stand before God, their blood begins to flow again. It's the color of blood, but it's the smell of musk, a sexual aphrodisiac. That's what we're dealing with. When you deal with a communist insurgency, a communist might be willing to die, but he doesn't have a death wish usually. He doesn't want to die because he doesn't believe in life after death. He's an atheist. He doesn't have a reward waiting for him. He's got the decay of his body. He's returning to the dust. But a Muslim sees himself marrying 72 wide-eyed virgins. He sees his blood becoming an aphrodisiac fragrance to seduce the virgins in heaven. That's what we're fighting against. And we need to be able and willing to kill them, to destroy them. But beyond that, we are going to have to deal with the ideology, just like the Allies did with the denazification of Germany. We're going to have to deal with the ideology. Mr. Muslim family, do you really believe Muhammad was made of pure light? Really? Did you know Muhammad had sex slaves? And he distributed women as sex slaves to his men and gave them the rules under which they could rape women? You really believe that is what God wants? I'll tell you this before I leave this subject and take a quick break. One of the things that we have to come to terms with and learn to speak about is the puniness of the God of Islam, the weakness of the God of Islam. He is so weak that he requires the steel blade of man to ensure that he is worshipped properly. Think about it. The understanding of the Judeo-Christian God is that he loves us, he gives us free will. If we choose to turn our backs upon him, we can go to hell. If we choose to serve him, we can be forgiven. We stumble, we fall, we get up, we ask forgiveness, we go on. Some people leave the faith, some come back. The Muslim God, their understanding of God, the theology of their God is so puny, he is so puny, so weak, that he requires the steel blade of man to ensure that he is worshipped the way he wants. And he keeps a blade over the neck of the Muslim so that if they decide, you know, I don't think I want this, I think I want to leave, that they're afraid for their lives because it's a crime, it's a capital crime, okay? Punished by death, that's what a capital crime is, to leave Islam. That's how weak, that's how puny the Muslim God is. And we have, if we're going to fight our enemy, if we're going to win the long, long battle of not just defeating Islamic terrorism, but defeating an ideology that spawns this type of behavior, we've got to know our enemy. And we have to be willing to run right at the lies that these young men are being taught that propel them to commit acts of barbaric terrorism. I'll be right back. If you own a business and would like to advertise on our program, please contact us. We are currently seen on over 130 television stations from coast to coast. We air at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then all times are local. We have a lot of reach, friend, and this is an opportunity at a great price for you to get your product or your service in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Also, if there's something that's important to you and you'd like to have a month where you just say thank you to this ministry or promote a certain ministry or a certain cause, contact us. Our rates are incredibly affordable. You'd be surprised. And you, again, can reach into hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of homes. We're currently seen possibly in over 30 million homes. So give us a call, give us an email, and we'll put a commercial up for you. During the break, we were discussing why so little news coverage has been paid to the American who was killed in Iraq, the Navy SEAL who was killed in this horrendous firefight. The reason is simple. No audio, no video. The news culture in America, traditional television, and now online newspapers, New York Times, Washington Post, everyone has video. Everyone has sound. And so instead of focusing on this brave American and this demonic assault from ISIS and devout Muslim men, we're focusing on what I'm about to show you. The footage of Ted Cruz being yelled at by a 10-year-old boy. Let's go ahead and play that clip in case you miss it, because I do want to talk about this for a minute.
And when we do that, all right, apparently there's a young man who's having some problems. Thank you, son. You know, I appreciate your sharing your views. You know, one of the things that hopefully someone has told you is that children should actually speak with respect. Imagine what a different world it would be if someone had told Donald Trump that years ago. You know, in my household, when a child behaves that way, they get a spanking.
But first of all, most of what Ted Cruz said, most of us who are my age or a little younger, a little older, we would agree with. We are now in the horrifying place where people are afraid to rebuke a child like that. Oh, at least he had the guts to stand up. Listen, if my sons do something heroic, I praise them. But if they show disrespect at that level, then no, I don't praise them. And so it's not enough that a child shows the courage to speak out at a political rally. If he does so with this type of speech, then it's a really bad reflection on the parents. But let's go a step beyond that. Look we're talking about a cultural divide here. We're talking about a seismic generational shift. Are we better off for it? Really and truly, you look at young people today, okay, with their godless devices, their iPhones, their iPads, and what they're exposed to, what they're saying, what they're watching, and then what they're doing, and what they're not doing that they should be doing. I ask you, are we better off? Is the country going in a better direction because of that? If every young child spoke like that disrespectfully to parents, or rather to adults, people in authority, people in respected positions, even ones we disagree with, would we all cheer and say this is a better place? I don't think so. I don't think so. We're in trouble, and this election shows how much we're in trouble. And I'm going to show another Ted Cruz clip when we come back. I like Ted Cruz. He's an honorable man, and he's been getting some just cruddy stuff as we close out the Indiana primary. Don't go away. Friend, this program is supported by friends like you who believe in what we are doing. We run a very tight ship. Thankfully, we are on over 130 stations across the country, having tremendous impact. We get emails every day. We get letters in the mail, not every day, but almost every day. We hear from people who love what we're doing. What people don't understand is that it's sort of expensive to produce a television show like this. It doesn't require earth-shattering funds, but it does require financial help. So I am asking you, if you enjoy this program, throw us a $10 or a $20 bill every once in a while, or even a $50 or a $100 check. You see the address there on the screen. Your gifts are not tax deductible, by the way, because we want to be able to say what we want to say regarding politics without the IRS telling us no. So if you like the program, I ask for your support. There have been things said about Ted Cruz that I'm simply not going to repeat. And it really angers me. And Donald Trump, who is doing well and is probably going to win Indiana tonight, why would he bring up one of those tawdry tabloid stories that Ted Cruz's dad was speaking to what is his name? Oswald, the guy who shot Kennedy? Craziness. I mean, just crazy stuff. And now watch this clip. Watch this clip, which is tied to the clip of the kid in the last segment. Watch this.
And I'm going to treat you with respect and civility, even if not everyone in this process does. I'll tell you, this election matters. It matters a lot, and you need someone to stand up.
Yeah, it does matter. It matters a lot.
So I appreciate your coming out. I appreciate your coming out and standing up. And I think this entire process, I think anyone that wants to be president owes it to the people of this state to come in front of you and ask for your support. And I'm running to be everyone's president, those who vote for me and even those who don't.
We don't want you.
Well, you're entitled to your view, sir, and I will respect it. In fact, I will
Do the
protect.
math.
I will protect
You asked
your
cases
rights.
to drop out. It's your turn.
Well,
Take your own words.
now I'm curious, sir.
Time to drop out.
When
sir.
Donald doesn't get to 1237, are you going to call him to drop out?
Donald's definitely going to get to
No,
1237.
no,
No,
he's
he's going
not.
to get more than 1237.
Let me ask you something, sir. What do you like about Donald?
Everything.
Give me one.
Everything.
Give me one. Can you pick anything?
The wall.
Okay, the wall.
That's the main thing.
All right.
Immigration.
All right, hold on a second. Now, do you know on the wall that Donald told the New York Times editorial board he's not going to build a wall and he's not going to deport anyone?
You're lying. Once
Well-
again, lying Ted.
Well, sir, actually, civilized people don't just scream and yell at each other. I'm not yelling at you.
I'm not telling everybody.
Do you know that Donald's words were caught on tape? The New York Times recorded the whole thing, publicly
What about your
reported.
mistresses?
That's a total lie made up by
Oh,
Donald
lying.
Trump's
Okay,
campaign.
lying Ted.
Let me ask.
Career politicians have killed America!
Now, there are some things there that are kind of funny, kind of chuckly. And if I know what it's like to cross the street where I'm the guest, I'm speaking, I was speaking, and there might be hundreds or thousands of people on the inside, but I still want to talk to my adversaries. I know what it's like to have an intelligent conversation with some of them, and I know what it's like to have a conversation with somebody who is proving, or at least acting like, an empty head. And if I was Donald Trump, I wouldn't want a man like that to just start yelling randomly, "Lying Ted!" I just don't want it. You can say, I disagree with you, Senator. I disagree. And I think that you're not being honest. You could say that. I mean, that's intense enough. There's a difference between fighting at a distance, hurling insults back and forth like like the Israelites and the Philistines. Remember hurling insults, and then finally David and Goliath came and faced each other? I get the hurling of insults. I get it. But the proximity really requires a certain level, in my opinion, of politeness. And what Ted Cruz was trying to do, Rush Limbaugh pointed this out, I think he was trying to have just a decent conversation with the man. Get him on the record, talking with the cameras rolling. Remember, this is a generation, a moment in history where we got to have sound and we have to have audio for it to be news. So we're not watching clips of this brave American soldier, this Navy SEAL who died fighting Muslim terrorists. We're watching this with Ted Cruz go on, try and have a conversation with this guy who's in his face yelling at him. I'm glad the man is out in the street. I'm glad he's supporting Trump more than he's supporting Hillary. Glad for those that are supporting Cruz. But we need to remember why we have elections and not degenerate. We have elections so we don't have to kill people, okay? We have elections so we don't have disappearances. When we come back from this break, I want to talk to you about a law they just passed in Thailand. And Thailand. It was Thailand, right? And then say, is this what we want? Is this where we're headed? Don't go away. I'll be right back. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years, and sadly we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. It took me 14 years to write it. 4 rewrites, countless edits. I poured my heart and soul into Dragon Slayers. It points a very inspiring and painful book to write. I encourage you to go to our website and look at the reviews that we have gotten from readers of this book, and then avail yourself. It's an allegory, and I promise you, you'll be inspired. Welcome back. I have in front of me a story that is a Reuters news story. Listen to this. This is in Thailand, where they've just passed a law. There are 14 rules issued by the Election Commission, and Thais must express their opinions, quote, with polite words, without distorting the facts. Rude, aggressive, or intimidating interviews with the media are banned. Also forbidden are t-shirts, pins, and ribbons that encourage others to campaign. Violators can be jailed for up to 10 years. Now, the military has a really big part in running Thailand right now, you would think. So, this type of draconian, oppressive laws are what lead to violent revolution, all right? So basically what they're saying is that we're in power, and we will decide what is rude, what's aggressive. And the way you break the spirit of a people is you take a few of them and put them in jail. Think about it. Take a few of these journalists who are popular and maybe just ask a really simple question, but very directly about an issue of justice or an issue, any issue. And if the people in power say that was rude, put them in jail. And what does it do to all the other rude reporters? Well, the goal of it is to go, whoa, 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 I'm not rude. I'm good. I'm very good. Let me just back up here and write my polite blog, not encouraging anybody to get involved in politics. Laws like this are designed to break dissent. Make an example of a few people and then break dissent. Drive it underground. After a while, it comes back. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. Its moments are numbered. Now, for some countries, it goes on for a long time. Depends how big the tyrants are at the top of the food chain. Depends how many weapons they have, how good their apparatus is. The Soviet Union was able to hold together for quite a while, but it finally came unglued. The British, well, they oppressed Americans. According to the American scheme, and I'm an American, they did not allow us to have free elections, so we rebelled. We had a revolution. People were shot and killed. I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm telling you, the reason we have elections and rude behavior is because if we don't, then we have oppression or violent revolution. That's it. Those are your choices, people. So as much as I decry what Ted Cruz is going through and the idiocy of some of the statements being said about him and this rude boy who did need to be spanked, I'm choosing that over what they have in Thailand, because at least we still get to have a peaceful, even though messy, a peaceful transition of power. We don't have to have killings and disappearances and assassinations and violence and all these different things. We have freedom of elections. I choose that, and I hope you do too. Hey, by the way, check out what happened in Indiana.